You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Okay, so I'm going to start this week's episode with a statement, and that is this. What you judge, you cannot understand. Now, what could I possibly mean by that? Let's explore it, right? And this is an interesting one, because I think for many of us, one of the orientations that we've kind of been taught through our schooling and the way that we relate to the world is one of judgment. And I don't just mean judgment in the sense of, that's good, that's bad. I mean just this constant kind of comparing or analysis, or this very intellectual relationship that we have with the world and with other people. And a really interesting place in which to reflect on this is the space of relationships and how we communicate with other people. So let me kind of explain an example to you. Let's see if this is helpful. So whenever we're listening to somebody and they're telling us how they see the world, or they're telling us a story, or perhaps they're even telling us what's happened to them, there's a really big difference between a space where we're actually open and curious to their experience and how they see the world, and where we're not leaning into judgment, or if we notice judgment, we're not leaning into it, we're letting it sort of just float on through. And if you think about it, what happens in that space is that we move into this kind of just very open space of consciousness where we're learning how somebody else sees the world, and it doesn't mean anything about us. There's no investment in trying to change how they see the world or any of those kinds of things. And so we're able to actually start to get a picture or an understanding of what might be happening for them. Now, for many of us, and the reason I can share this is because for so many years this was something I was incredibly good at, is that I wasn't listening like that. I wasn't being with the people in my life like that. What was actually happening was I was either consciously or unconsciously judging what was happening, comparing their version of the world to my version of the world, trying to figure out whether they see things like I see things. And if they don't see things how I see things, well, maybe I can educate them. Maybe I can show them how to see the world. Maybe I can effectively teach them to see the world like me. Now, it's really easy to see from a zoomed out perspective that there really isn't any room for understanding in there, because I'm not listening through curiosity to understand if I fall into that way of being. What I'm actually doing is potentially listening to negate someone's point of view, or listening to train them into a certain way of thinking, or perhaps I am comparing notes to see if we see the world in the same way. And what can happen is that we can innocently surround ourselves in our life with people who seem to see the world like we do. But the truth is, we're always seeing the world through our own eyes. Even if we're comparing notes with somebody else, we never really truly know what somebody means. And that's actually where the miracle is. The miracle is in the open space of curiosity, where we're really trying to see how someone has mapped the world or how things work. And you'll also notice in that space that there's a lot less conflict. Curiosity melts it. There's a lot more space for just, wow, amazing. And what happens in that space is, because we don't have anything at stake, because we're not trying to train that person into seeing the world as we see it or any of that kind of stuff, we can't be triggered in that state. We can't actually move into a space where that person is pissing us off because of the way they see it, because we're not threatened in any way. They have their right to see the world in the way that they do. We don't have to agree with people. And at the same time, we can bring love and curiosity and openness into our relationships. And it just makes for such a magical time. Now, to just broaden that out a little bit, because that was just like a snapshot of the power of curiosity in relationships. But the relationship that we have to our job or the world or what's happening out there, it's exactly the same. If we're resisting how things are out there, and we're not kind of residing in this state of curiosity, then we can very often find ourselves in states of conflict, not just with other people, but actually with the world at large. So the thing that I would love for all of us, myself included, to kind of sit with or reflect on this week is, what about that? What about the fact that if, what you judge, you cannot understand? If you were to actually come from a space of curiosity, love, and understanding in your life, and let go of some of the games that you've probably been playing for a long time, which often, as I say, look like trying to make other people see the world like we do, how would your life change? How would your relationships change? What would be different for you? See you soon.